Hello and welcome to the 11th episode of This Week in Mappercraft. This is going to be a short one today. This past week was March 8th to March 14th, and we'll be covering the years for 2016, 2020, 2021, and 2025. As always, all information here can be found on the Mappercraft wiki, which is linked in the description along with the server itself. Let's go over the years. In 2016, the server was running Terraen World under Monsoon Jr. In 2020, the server was running Solace World 2 under Solace. In 2021, the server was running VMJ World under Multi. And in 2025, the server was running Ramayana World under me, MintyMichael. To start the video, we have two slides going over the week in Terraen World. Here's 4 events from March 8th to the 11th of 2016. First up, we have the Second Gem War on the 8th of March, when the ceasefire from the First Gem War last week is broken and General Gems attacks Cote de Votre again. According to the quote, Nano also helped him as a sort of independent mercenary, although a ceasefire was called again after some limited fighting. Following that, on the next day, the Cote War occurred when Matt and KML decided that Tomad and Extra had insulted them and proceeded to declare war on France. There were major griefs on Cote, but the French army managed to defend and make a small counterattack, leading to a ceasefire and peace treaty for at least 2 days, according to the quote. Then, after or possibly during the Cote War on the 9th, tensions arose between Matt's nation Hakai and Extra, an ally of Cote, leading to the Hakai-Extra War. Extra declared war, causing Hakai to invade them. Extra and the other members of their city, Vaskian City, log off, so Hakai rebuilds and a treaty is signed the next day, according to the quote. While this was occurring, the city of Cote in France is occupied by the Second Homeworlder French War, which was a continuation of the Cote War, as KML kept fighting after Matt left and the members of Homeworld got involved officially. According to the quote, Cote was destroyed and France officially dissolved as part of the peace treaty. The next couple of days were a little less chaotic due to this, with no major events on the 10th or 11th of March as players rebuilt and created new nations in the ruins of France. However, on the back half of the week, things got interesting again, as we have 4 more events from March 12th to March 14th, 2016. First, on the 12th, the instability era ended and the aggressive era began, a relatively shorter era which would last until the end of the world, although it's not given in the quote due to the wiki never being updated in the past decade. However, this marking the beginning of this era, on the 12th, the Eternal Alliance was formed between a resurgent France and Potato Land. The city-state of Vaskian City would later join this alliance as well. This was primarily a defensive alliance, according to the quote, where nations would all promise to help defend each other if one of their members was attacked. The members were also not supposed to attack each other, and the alliance was not required to defend a member which attacked somebody and was counterattacked as a result. The first test of this alliance was 2 days later, on the 14th, when the French Straros War occurred, when the group of quote-unquote Vikings invaded France. The Eternal Alliance presumably mobilized and quickly subjugated the kingdom of Straros. According to the quote, the Jarl of Straros fought to the death, yelling out some quotes before being slaughtered by General Enda and the French army. This was also, quote-unquote, the most cinematic and epic wars of the Terraen World. So yeah, this may have been a staged or something. But anyway, later that day, an actual war did occur when the Kingdom of Hakai, which had been renamed to Lapania, declared war on the Eternal Alliance, which had recently unified into the Eternal Empire for suspected looting. Thus, the war was called the Imperial War. Some minor skirmishing and griefing occurred in Cote and Lyon before the Lapanian forces were outflanked and Havana was completely destroyed. There were some issues regarding whether the griefs were legal, but eventually the two sides declared a ceasefire and the cities were rebuilt according to the quote here. And that marks the end of the week for Terraen World. We'll see it a little bit next week, but that's essentially every really major event in the world, so kind of marks the end there. Thanks for sticking through with me. It's definitely one of the more interesting worlds on in Mappercraft's history. Next up, we have a single event from March 8th to the 14th of 2020 during Solace World 2. On the 14th, the PvP tournament continued with its second round of weekly matches. Here's the limited quote. The Clown Down PvP tournament began last week and would continue for another couple of weeks, but apparently was the only major event this week during Solace World 2. Fortunately, next week we will have some additional events, and Solace World 2 will really get going around late March and early April. Next up, we have 4 events from March 8th to the 14th of 2021 during VMJ World. First, on the 11th, the Malagasy Maori War occurred when Madagascar quickly declared war on the small nation, invaded, and capitulated them, as seen in the quote here. The only real interesting thing about this war would be that Maori was a nation which used to be kind of in Vinland's sphere before being sort of released, and Vinland choosing to dissociate with them. The next day, on the 12th, the ISIS Wars of Aggression continued with the ISIS-Favriks War on the 12th, and then later in the week, the ISIS-Dubai War on the 14th. Both wars were relatively quick conflicts, with ISIS quickly invading and defeating both Favriks and Dubai. Both nations were destroyed, although the actual peace treaties would be more of a white peace, according to the quote here. In general, the world opposed to this sort of senseless destruction. Also on the 12th, however, East Africa disbanded under the threat of aggression from Madagascar. In terms of physical proximity, East Africa was the closest nation to Madagascar, and thus were pressured into sort of giving up their territory. And they chose to disband instead of being annexed. However, according to the quote, other raiders from the international community quickly moved in and looted the territory before the Malagasy were able to do so, so the benefit to them was relatively limited. And finally, for the last big event of VMJ World, on the 14th, the Malagasy War began when Madagascar declared war on Vinland. As seen in the quote, the conflict would quickly spiral as Vinland called upon a large coalition led by Dejang, Shank, and New Athens to finally put sort of an end to Madagascar's aggression. The Malagasy army attempted a quick invasion of Vinland before being repulsed. They then got off the server for the rest of the day, leading to a conflict which we'll continue to cover at the beginning of next week. And finally, we have a single event from March 8th to the 14th of 2025 last year during Ramayana World. On the 8th of March, the world was officially closed down when the billing period ended, as seen in the quote. Nothing much to say here. RAM definitely revived Mappercraft, but it was relatively contentious due to the war rule changes and the lack of activity in the waning months. The next world from last year will come around eventually, but for now, that'll be the last we hear of 2024 or 2025 for at least a month or two. And this marks the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and check out the server at the link in the description. As always, if you have any additional information about any of these events, leave a comment down below or go ahead and add it to the Mappercraft wiki. See you next week from March 15th through to March 21st.